Welcome everybody to Bearcat Insider. I'm Chance Kirby and with everybody's favorite assistant, Travis Marsh. First of all, I want to say happy Memorial Day. Hope everybody's out doing something fun while they're listening to this podcast. You got big plans for Memorial Day, Travis?
Yeah, I think we're probably going to end up throwing some meat on the grill or meat on the smoker and doing it American, how we do it. And the weird thing about Memorial Day, and I never understood this until I worked with a veteran who took it very seriously, but make sure Memorial Day you don't thank a veteran.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite Facebook pastimes on Memorial Day is being that guy that puts in comments and corrects people's posts when they.
Yeah, it's not the day to thank a veteran. Not that we shouldn't thank a veteran or be thankful, but it is a day that is reserved for those who fell in combat or not in combat or whatever. But it's a day of memorial, not a day of thanks to those who have served. So
absolutely,
just a public service message, I guess, from
there
Coach Marsh.
So then that's one less Facebook post that I may or may not make a comment on.
Just repost this video every time you want to, and then we can drive our viewers up.
Yeah, there we go. We get more numbers.
Yeah.
Got an interview to bring to you today. We sat down with the new man at the paper, JT Strasner. Yes. That is Strasner, not Strasner.
No, not Strasner.
And had a long talk with him. And, this might lead us into something else. I'm kind of throwing this on Travis without telling him prior. I think we're going to look forward to more interviews like this, mixing them in of a community segment or a community spotlight. We're going to try to talk to more people that have a connection to the Bearcats in a different way other than an athlete or a coach and get their story and their perspective on things. And I think this was a fun interview. Travis led it again. And what were your thoughts on it?
I really enjoyed it. And, JT's we mention it time and time again in the actual interview, but he's an exceptional guy to have in the position that we have him in as general manager and over the sports side of things and everything like that. And I really look forward to working with him in the future. I think he's got some big ideas, and we always have big ideas that seem out of reach, and I think we can help each other reach the goals that we want to reach with mutual help and kind of a symbiotic relationship there. So I really thought it went well. He's an interesting guy. He's tall. And that was the first thing is he stood up and I was like, oh my gosh, this guy, he's a huge guy. And so, I just look forward to continue work with him, look forward to seeing him at the field house, seeing him at the practice field, seeing him at basketball games. And, I really am looking forward to challenging him for a game of pig. I think that's
not one-on-one.
No, not one-on-one. I feel like I can probably get him with a couple granny shots, and maybe some behind the backboard shots. The unskilled stuff that you have to work on to beat people that can actually play a little basketball.
Makes sense.
And so he doesn't know that's coming, but it's coming. There's a game of pig on the horizon.
He may now, because surely he'll listen to this.
He might not want to hear himself, so this could be completely out of the dark.
Could be.
So, no, it really is good. And so I encourage viewers, make sure you listen to it all the way through because it's fantastic the whole way through.
Let's get started.
And hey, this is Bearcat Insider with Chance Kirby and Coach Travis Marsh. We're here in the offices of the Pilot Point Post-Signal, the hometown newspaper of the great city of Pilot Point, with our new JT. What's your title?
Even though Chance and I had some fun via text last night, the official title is General Manager.
Okay, General Manager of the Pilot Point Post-Signal, JT Strasner. Okay, and that when you read it and when you see it in the papers, folks, it's going to read Strasner, but right. It is Strasner. So JT Strasner. And so, thank you for taking the time to sit down with us and have an interview. You're kind of an important person because from my understanding, are you in control of the sports page? Would that be a way to kind of phrase it? Definitely,
yeah. David is the owner of the paper, so he's in control of most everything. But I do have some control aspects in terms of our very small staff. I'm in control of the sports, I guess you could say.
Very good. Well, with that very small staff, we sure are pleased to have you. Now, I'm sitting here in your office and I'm looking around and I see a ton of plaques of first place this, first place that, Press Association Better Newspaper Contest, Publisher of the Year. So I feel like we got us a good one here, Chance. What do you think?
Well, my first question is who are you and why are you here? Because, like I said, introducing this, you seem way overqualified.
Yeah, we mentioned off air, a little bit of my resume. Unlike people who go into real estate and coaching, at age 18, I had no idea what I was going to do. I was a good student in high school. You're a good student in high school, you go to college. Went to the University of Arkansas. They were, doing awesome in NCAA basketball.
Did you grow up in Arkansas or
Grew up
Texas?
in Arkansas, born and raised in Arkansas, about 45 minutes from the Texas state line, down there in the Arklatex. Went to college, got my journalism degree, had a blast up there following the Razorbacks. My first job was, I covered some sports for the Arkansas Traveler student newspaper. My first job was in the sports department in El Dorado, Arkansas, which is about an hour from the Louisiana state line, South Central. And I had the 3 to midnight shift. It's a daily paper, and you do cover the sports. Most of the sports happen in the evening, so I had the evening shift there. And I had just gotten married. My wife at the time, she had a speech degree, speech pathology degree, and was working on her master's. And unfortunately for her, me working 3 to midnight, if she was to find a shift like that, it was either a stripper or waitress. She chose waitress.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I was.
Or not.
So she didn't go for the paycheck.
Right. Nor did she marry for the paycheck, because I think I was making about $19,000 a year.
Okay.
Coming out of college, but glad to have a job and glad to be covering sports. Quickly realized that if I was ever going to be a provider for the family, I would have to move kind of in the business aspect and move more into the news side. So I had a couple different weekly editor jobs after that in Arkansas. Got a daily newspaper editor job about 10 years into it, and then moved on to publisher. My first publisher gig was in Clarksdale, Mississippi, birthplace of the blues.
There you go.
Yeah, met Morgan Freeman a couple times. He was from that town. He had a blues club and a restaurant. So
what was it like to come face to face with God?
I asked him if I was famous enough for him to narrate my biography.
Okay.
And he left immediately afterwards.
Okay.
But
that wasn't a no.
It was not. No. Also, the town where Robert Johnson allegedly sold his soul to the devil to be able to play guitar at the Crossroads there.
Okay.
So, ton of history. It was just a cool place. But shortly after I got that position, the other real God, not Morgan Freeman, said, "Come to Texas because this is true God's country and not Mississippi." And
you have that part figured out, and I'm happy to hear that.
For sure. So I jumped at that opportunity. Was publisher at a paper in El Campo down between Victoria and Houston. Loved it there. Was there about 7 or 8 years. Moved up to publisher at a daily paper in that chain. From there, really enjoyed that. Ton of responsibility. And then came to Dallas-Fort Worth, where I worked for a group of newspapers that shall remain nameless because I don't want to give them a plug. And didn't love it as much. It was a growing company, but they were going through some stuff that I didn't really love. At the same time, my dad passed, so I had some time for introspection, and I was thinking, I really want to get back to small communities. My graduating class was 29 kids.
Okay.
So small town America is what I like. I like short commutes to work, and David and I were cruising around town the other day, and he just threw it in reverse and back down a street and went where he needed to go because he passed his turn. And I was like, you can't do this in Dallas, and this is what I enjoy about small towns. So, a little bit of me looking to get back into a smaller community, and a little bit of David looking for somebody to come bring some fresh ideas, and so it's been a good marriage so far.
Well, that's good. Well, man, with all that being said, like Chance already mentioned, we feel like you could possibly be overqualified, and after hearing all that, now I definitely feel that way. But man, we're happy to have you, and that's awesome. So bounced around with jobs similar to coaching, I can understand that. I served a little bit of time, you could say, down in the Houston area myself at Westside High School, and really enjoyed it. And so, I can understand that. And so, small town America, all right. And you're covering multiple cities. Again, we won't name the other cities out of this being Bearcat Insider and not another mascot insider.
Right.
But seeing what you've stepped into and seeing the way that the paper works, what do you envision kind of in the future as far as, and we'll just use Bearcat sports as an example, knowing good and well, I'm not going to put you in a position to compromise the other mascots and the other towns that are represented, but from Bearcat sports, what can we expect kind of in the future?
Yeah, we've this paper's obviously been an award-winning paper, and had some good coverage over the years. David is, he's poured his entire life into this paper and cares so much about the community and the newspaper itself, which is great to be a part of. I've won a couple awards myself, so that was really endearing to me. But there's some things I think can be done beyond just the print product that we do. There's some podcasting. Just because you work in a newspaper with the cost of microphones and recording gear, that's really dropped. You can be a multimedia company based out of a newspaper. And, there's opportunities for that here at Pilot Point and, the surrounding areas that we serve that are growing so much. So
it seems almost necessary to survive at this point.
For sure. From a business model, you can't just rely on one source of income. Yeah. There's so much out there, and I've got some experience with some of it, and I think that's definitely on the horizon for us at the Post-Signal.
Well, for sure, it's a weekly paper, okay, not a daily like what you've experienced in the past, and so I think it's really important. Chance and we actually talked last episode about how whenever Governor Abbott gave his address on Monday with the update of the COVID everything and went through what all was going to be reopening with Phase 2 and things like that, almost immediately there was a Facebook update from the Post-Signal, and that's actually where I got my information from via a screenshot from Chance of y'all's Facebook post to send to me. And so even though it's a weekly published paper, there's still an avenue for daily news with Facebook. And then what other mediums do y'all use?
We also have a Twitter page. I don't think we have an Instagram.
Okay.
We've got our website. We can also post immediate breaking things too. So I was listening to the governor's speech live, much like you were, and even before it was over, I typed out a little message on Facebook and got that out there for people who maybe don't have the time like you and I do to sit and listen to, the governor gesture for amazing gestures from the governor.
Well, and
speaker. So I think it's important to share those things because, if you wait till Friday, sometimes something breaking and immediate like that is, everyone's heard about it.
So I think that's important for our listeners to understand that the Post-Signal is still a great source of news instantaneously if you follow them on the right mediums and you follow them on Twitter, you follow them on Facebook. You still have daily updates even though it's a weekly published paper.
There's more to the picture than just the Thursday paper.
Absolutely, and it's all quality coverage, and and that's what we expect from the Post-Signal. And so now, shifting gears here, we've talked about the Post-Signal, we've talked about your past. You mentioned Arkansas Razorbacks. Okay, so
before we get to Arkansas, I have a quick question. I believe you said you had a class size of 26 when you graduated.
29 in high school. Yeah.
Was it 11-man football? And did you play? You look like a basketball player to me.
More of a basketball guy. I did not play football in high school, but did a little bit in basketball. Certainly could not have contributed to the Razorbacks in the 90s more than being a water boy because they had one of the best teams in the nation. But I played some basketball, really enjoyed it, and now I'm old and you might could slide a sheet of paper under my feet when I jump. So
popular question that we have of people who like basketball. Whenever we interviewed Mr. Southard 2 weeks ago, we asked him about basketball and we were talking, and so I asked Mr. Southard if he could compare his game to an NBA great. Who would he be? And he quickly claimed Bill Laimbeer. So, JT, if you had to compare your high school basketball game in Arkansas to an NBA legend, Are you Dominique Wilkins, playing above the rim? Are you Clyde the Glide? Are you Chris Mullen?
I would say maybe Jalen Rose. He's not a legend, but kind of thin.
Yeah.
Tall enough to play in the post, but had more of a shooter and more of an outside game. Had a pretty good handle. So that was me. A lot of times the tallest guy out there, but I wanted to be beyond the 3-point line, and so I still have a pretty deadly.
Before his time,
were you Dirk before Dirk?
Obviously not that tall, nor that talented. Half that German. But I would never compare myself to Dirk, although he was definitely a player that I followed.
So when you had to give up the dream of playing for Nolan and decided that journalism was your path, when you fantasized about how it was going to end up, is a sports guy who you wanted to be for like a large paper covering a team, being an insider or embedded?
For sure. And I think every young journalist dude, or at least the majority of us, I think that's your initial dream, is to do that. And I probably had some opportunities. My wife and I watched a Netflix series recently called Dark. It's in German. I highly recommend it. It's kind of like Stranger Things, but it's German, but maybe not as, fantasy related. And one of the characters said, every time you make a decision, you choose against something else. And I probably had some opportunities, to join larger papers and join the sports staff and write about the Razorbacks. But, for whatever reason, maybe it was a God thing. I was directed in another path, or just decided to go that way.
It does make it tough, I would think, because you were at Arkansas with the paper at an amazing time in their history. So you're learning and you're surrounded by all this excitement and a national championship run that was ruined by maybe a fumble, maybe not. And then you graduate and then it's to El Dorado, I think. So yeah, I could see where no matter where you go after that, it would be, wow, is this what it's really like?
For sure. And, Arkansas is such a state that there's kind of, quadrants, and the northwest part is really growing and really cosmopolitan, and you have Little Rock in the center, and the rest of it's, there's not much population density, it's kind of spread out. There's less than 3 million people in the entire state.
Yeah.
And, you look at Frisco, 30 minutes from here, there's probably 1 million people just in Frisco. So it's really been different. There's a guy that's one of the most ballyhooed beat writers for Auburn football and Auburn sports named Brandon Marcello, and he actually took the job at the paper in my hometown, a small twice-weekly paper, after I did, and took one of those opportunities to go to Fayetteville and started covering the Razorbacks, and then went over to Alabama. So sometimes I think to myself, I could be on ESPN every now and then too.
Yeah.
But it wasn't meant to be, and I'm certainly, I've been really blessed and done some really fun things in my career, so I have no regrets as far as that. And I've met my current wife in the Houston area too, and I would not have met her if I was in Fayetteville. So that's another great thing. I've been on the sidelines of high school football games for 20 straight years, and there's nothing like it. You guys know it. You've been there. Continue to be there.
I hope so. I particularly enjoy it, and I would really like to stay on the sidelines.
For sure. And,
in Pilot Point, by the way. If Coach David happens to listen, this is where I do want to be.
Right. And, maybe some news came this week that giving a little glimmer of hope that we'll all be down there in various capacities this fall.
We're going to step aside from the interview with JT Strasner from the Pilot Point Post-Signal and give you a word from our sponsor, the Bearcat Nutrition Den. My wife, she always is up there. She's always doing something to where she ends up gravitating up there with Ken and Angela at Bearcat Nutrition Den, and she brought me back a chocolate chip cookie dough shake, Herbalife shake. Now, anybody who knows me knows that I'm not a health nut at all.
Really?
Yeah, I know, shocking.
Wow, okay.
Maybe I need to talk to Allsup's to be a sponsor for my popcorn chicken and Dr. Pepper and egg rolls. But she brought me home this chocolate chip cookie dough shake, and it was amazing. I really was, taken aback, and I'm sure there's some great health benefits to it since they use all Herbalife products, and it was tasty, it was good, and come to find out, it was a meal replacement shake, and I ended up skipping dinner that night. And so, man, Ken and Angela, they always care about the community. They always care about the Bearcats and the Lady Cats. They're always asking questions about what's going on, what can they do to help out. And so, just shout out to those guys for everything they do for us, everything they do for the community. And the best way that we can show them love is by going into the Bearcat Nutrition Den, tell them you heard about it on Bearcat Insider, post on social media, get a couple dollars off, and get you a great product for those guys.
And I want to make a challenge to those that are listening.
Okay.
If you walk into Bearcat Nutrition Den and you tell Ken or Angela the exact moment that this ad started on your player on Stitcher,
okay,
I will buy them everybody's favorite assistant coach, Travis Marsh's favorite drink, a Captain America. That's on me.
Okay.
So there's a challenge to whoever's listening and whoever wants it. Walk into Bearcat Nutrition Den, give the minute mark that this commercial started, you get a Captain America on chance.
All right. Well, that sounds like a challenge to me. It sounds like we need people to show up to the Bearcat Nutrition Den and see if we can make you go broke.
I just said one.
Does that count for me? Does that count? Can I do it?
No.
Okay. All right.
And then also, speaking of first one in to get a Captain America, I think there's another first involving the nutrition.
Yeah, I kind of teased this the other day, and I just happened to be going around Grubhub seeing if I could be lazy or not, and the Bearcat Nutrition Den is on Grubhub. And so since it is outside of business hours, I can only place a pre-order at this moment, but the Bearcat Nutrition Den is on Grubhub, and so that is a pilot point first. They're our first eating establishment to be on Grubhub, and so hats off to them for being innovators and for pushing the envelope not only with technology and ease of ordering, but with nutrition and customer service.
There you go. Since they were the first, then you be the first in there to get that free Captain America on chance.
That's it, and that's from our sponsor, Bearcat Nutrition Den. Thanks, Ken and Angela.
Thanks.
So we've spent a lot of time talking about Arkansas. Now, I'm a Big 12 guy, graduated from Baylor. And so while I respect the archaic offenses of the SEC, I do like points in bunches and no defense. I'm going to ask you at least two Arkansas-related questions, okay? The first is, who is the best player to don an Arkansas Razorback football uniform, in your opinion?
Obviously, from the games I've watched, Darren McFadden, two-time Heisman runner-up,
Okay.
got robbed by Troy Smith one year, got robbed by Tim Tebow another year. Although Tim Tebow was, he's obviously
Sure. Heck of a player.
Historic college football player. There was a guy from Smackover, which was the first school that I covered for the El Dorado paper, named Clyde Scott, who was also an awesome track athlete. Lance Allworth, back in the day, played for the Chargers.
San Diego Chargers.
Phenomenal Arkansas player. And then, if you look at the coaching tree, not necessarily players, but, both Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson were on that 64 championship team.
Yeah.
There's been some really good players over the years. Not in the past decade, maybe. Certainly not some great teams come out of the Razorbacks. But, Darren McFadden is one that stands out.
Isn't Atwater an Arkansas guy?
Steve Atwater, recently named to the Hall of Fame, Denver Broncos safety. Once lit up Christian Okoye on, I think, a Monday night football game.
Shot her around the world right there.
He's a very, very awesome player. Yeah. So, from the secondary, he's probably one of the best players.
Rich history of Arkansas football. I think that goes without saying. And then you mentioned a little bit of a downturn. I would assume with the rich history, the expectation of a Razorbacks fan is, always next year. They're destined to get better. I would assume. What is your outlook for them in the coming, maybe couple seasons? What do you think?
Well, you mentioned the Baylor connection. Kendall Briles is the offensive coordinator now, so that's definitely a help. We got Sam Pittman, who was with Georgia.
Yeah.
They were an overtime loss away from winning the national championship a couple years ago.
Another Baylor connection. They whipped us in the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned I'll just dip my toe into the SEC Big 12 thing. Out of the past 24 head-to-head matchups, the SEC has won 14 of them, including 5 of the last 6.
Yeah.
The SEC, with their archaic offenses, had 2 teams average over 40 points per game last year. Big 12 had 1. Points per game last season by 10 it's Big 12, but there's 10 members.
We're good at math.
Yeah.
If you've ever watched any of our episodes, you'll understand that that's right up my alley with
For
math.
sure.
That's about how I count.
Right. I think Big 12 in 2019 averaged 31 points a game. SEC was 29.5, so pretty close.
Yeah.
And then the difference in defense, I think, plays a role in that.
But is it fair to make all those points when you have the greatest season by a quarterback in NCAA history in the SEC?
You know,
And was that not unreal? I mean, just to watch, that was insane.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I think they averaged almost 48 points a game.
In a really tough conference.
Tough conference. Man, I became a little bit of a LSU fan, and I'm not the type of guy who beats the SEC drum because
Yeah.
if an SEC team is doing better, they're taking recruits from Arkansas.
Yeah.
I'm jealous that way. I don't root for SEC teams per se. I like it when Clemson wins and
Yeah.
beats Alabama because I hate Alabama. But yeah, it was impressive to watch LSU last year. They were phenomenal, and kudos to them.
I feel sorry for you. I'm having a brother that has literally went to college the same time you did at Arkansas and seeing his pretty much life of misery since y'all won the national championship in basketball. I mean, it's been pretty steep downhill ever since then.
Yeah, we still have our track championships that we do pretty well in, but in terms of the sports, to me, that, most people pay attention to, it's been a while. Petrino had some pretty good years there in the early 2010s. I think we won 11 games one year. And of course, his career crashed on a motorcycle.
Literally.
on April Fool's Day, no less. But that's kind of been the Arkansas way. We've been so close, and kind of been the stepchild.
Well, speaking of so close in Arkansas, if I were to bring up 1998 versus Tennessee, what does that mean to you?
I was physically ill for 2 weeks. It really, because I was in college that time, and those games mean so much to you. You live and die. I had to, and that was during the time we had Houston Nutt, and we were playing all these ridiculous long overtime games and winning some of them. I mean, it would rip your heart out. It was too much. But that game in particular, Tennessee won the national championship that year and beat a FSU team, Florida State, that I think was without their quarterback. So the path was just paved for Arkansas, and maybe it's a good thing because Houston Nutt would probably still be our coach, and we'd still be dealing with some of his shenanigans. So maybe it was for the best, but that could have very easily been a championship year, but that's very Arkansas. I was telling Chance the other day, I could not be an Arkansas Razorback and a Dallas Cowboy fan because I would be angry both Saturday and Sunday, and my weekends would be ruined because the Cowboys kind of have that soap opera type thing, and maybe it's the connection with Jerry Jones in Arkansas, but it can be very frustrating to be a Razorback fan. But I will love them forever.
You should try being a Baylor Bear and Atlanta Falcons fan.
Oh man, 28-3.
Yeah, ouch. See, man, I threw out 1998, and you have to do that, which is a bad score for both Baylor and the Atlanta Falcons.
Right.
But that's all I had as far as Arkansas-related things. Chance, is there anything else you want to add real quickly before we keep it moving?
Keep on trucking.
Okay. So we've talked about the future of kind of the paper and the different mediums, and we have some good news. Like you mentioned, a glimmer of hope. June 8th. Gosh, man, my ears perked up. Even though I don't know what that's going to look like, we haven't been given parameters yet. But at least we know that we get to see kids and we get to do athletic things. When do you start getting excited about the upcoming fall? As a sports writer and a sports guy, when does it hit you like, man, it's about to be go time?
Honestly, 7-on-7.
Yeah.
And it's a high school football team, and I was telling Chance about this earlier. It's so fun because every year there's kind of like a renaissance. The seniors move on, and you're kind of questioning, man, what are we going to do? Both our running backs are gone, and what's it going to be like? But there's always these kids that step up and develop over the summer and contribute to the team in a way that you don't expect, and you start to see some of that in 7-on-7. It's the younger guys move up, and that's the beauty of kind of covering high school sports and at the same time, working in a newspaper, every week is a new experience for us. We start with a clean slate. We throw away last week's paper and we start with a blank computer document and put all the pieces together. And I think high school coaching, I have no idea what it's like, but it's probably a lot like that, where you have your trends and your cycles, but at the same time it's new characters that are involved. And I just love high school football because of that, and I'm already looking forward to it, and maybe we do have a glimmer of hope, hopefully.
Yeah, I sure hope so. And now to pat Pilot Point on the back, now you're stepping into a place where the Friday night lights shine bright, and it is the epicenter of town in the fall. Man, this past year, I know you weren't here for it this past fall, but it was awesome to see the support and see Pilot Point rally behind the Bearcats and see orange and black flags everywhere and writing all over the business windows. And it was really an awesome experience. Have you ever been in a setting where I guess you could get that Friday Night Lights feel? Is there anything from your experience as a sports journalist? And I know, being an Arkansas fan, you know what that's like in that capacity, because I don't know, that's a great college football atmosphere. But as far as high school football, is there any experience that you have that relates to that kind of feverish pitch of fandom?
Yeah, for sure. The adjacent town where I grew up is Nashville, Arkansas, and my mom still lives there. They've got an orange and black mascot named the Scrappers. And it's a town about the size of Pilot Point. It's really remarkable, same colors. I think I was telling Chance this, and I know I've said that like 5 times now, so I'll stop referring to our conversations.
Hey, why not? Let's get a conversation.
There's a coach similar to, not in age or probably accomplishment, but maybe from an Arkansas standpoint, similar to G.A. Moore, who I've heard a little bit about since I've been here, named Billy Dawson. And he came to Nashville. His first game, we played Hope High School, birthplace of Bill Clinton. A little larger school than Nashville in classification. And they won at Nashville on our home field. And everybody's around town is like, man, I don't know about this Coach Dawson. What have we done? Why did we hire this joker? And from that game on, he proceeded to win, I think, 59 straight games. They won 3 straight state titles. Maybe it's 49, but just ridiculous. So I was covering the team during that. They had some players that wanted to play D1. They played at Nashville's Little Rock's War Memorial Stadium for the state championship games. I got to cover a lot of that. So that was really a fun time in my career. And I would think David would agree with this. We're supporters of the Bearcats. We have to be objective in our reporting, but we want the Bearcats to do well. These are our friends and neighbors that are parts of these teams, and so that town was a lot like that. El Campo, they had a coach by the name of Bob Gillis, who was leading the High School Coaches Association, Hall of Fame coach, and he's probably a lot like Coach David. I remember I was there 7 or 8 years in El Campo, and they went to the state finals and lost to Stephenville. I think the year after Coach Browse left.
Chad Morris would have been at the helm then in Stephenville. I do believe.
He may have been at this. I need to get my year straight here. I think maybe it was Joey Hunt, who was center for TCU, is now with the Seahawks. His little brother was on that team, so I'm thinking it was like maybe, 2016?
I know this is Pilot Point centered, the podcast, but is that something that's going to change in case there is 1 or 2 people listening as far as the coverage area? Do you see an increase in more coverage for Tioga, Broswell, and Aubrey as well? I mean, is that an intention of yours?
Aubrey and Tioga have always been part of our coverage area. Adding some others would probably at least require some part-time. We want to cover the hound out of them first, and then maybe expand from there. But yeah, we.
Now, you've brought up small staff, and we understand. And the product that we get with the available staff that y'all have is it's amazing, and it's a testament to David's commitment to the paper over time for sure. Say for instance, there's a lot of stuff going on, and people are reading the paper and this and that, and something that they want covered isn't being covered, or they want special attention drawn to something. What would be the process for that?
Pick up the phone and call me.
Okay. Or send you a message on Facebook, or just get in touch with you.
Yes, whatever is going on out there, we want to hear about it, and perhaps there's an arrangement where there can be some, the person who wants to see the coverage can provide some details that we can formulate into a coverage plan. So
absolutely,
citizen journalism is a big thing for newspapers our size.
So the rabbit hole that I'm going down with that is if people have a problem with something, the best thing to do is to reach out.
For sure, yeah. Let us know. We don't know it's a problem unless someone says something.
Exactly. Or if there's a big softball milestone, or if there's a big volleyball milestone, or I know, I've run the numbers, and we have a couple of milestone wins coming for our coach, assuming we can win a whole lot of football games. And none of that will be known if we don't make it known.
For sure. Yeah. I'd never heard the name Presley Galloway until a guy walked into our office who. He didn't identify himself, but was a guy who lives here, former administrator in the school, I think he said, and I was like, hey, this lady has done some amazing things at La Tech, was named to the All-Decade team. I said, super awesome.
Now the head softball coach at Lindsay.
Yeah.
I found that news out from the Post-Signal as well. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Right. We can't very well look at every website on earth.
So you're saying you're not going to go down 300 colleges, All-Decade teams to figure out if there's a Pilot Point grad on it?
It would be difficult. We would love to, but I just don't think it's
but small staffing problems and concerns. And so for our listeners out there, if there's something that you want attention drawn to, reach out to the Post-Signal. Sitting here in the office, I promise you're going to be greeted nicely, and you're going to be listened to, and they want to provide a product that we can all be proud of, and that we have input in that sense of let them know if something's going on, and they'll be happy to try to accommodate and arrange and do what they can do within power and within reason.
For sure, and I'd like to point out that even at some of the larger papers I've been at, that's still a crucial thing. Yeah. So, involvement and feedback is we definitely value that.
Absolutely.
That leads me to some questions about the community. So, I don't know how you and David met and how this came open, but I have no doubt you did your due diligence. Had you ever heard of Pilot Point in this area before the discussion about this job?
A little bit. My wife is a little bit of an interior designer. Look her up on IG, House of Strasner. Shameless plug.
That's okay.
She wants to redo our master bathroom, and is actually part of a Better Homes and Gardens challenge thing that she's doing right now. And I have to tiptoe around paint cans every morning when I'm getting ready for work. Anyway, she bought an old vintage tub north of Tioga, and about the time I was starting to kind of look at this job, and had talked to David a couple times, and drove through here and went to Clark's Outpost and had a delightful sandwich. And this was during the heart of the COVID outbreak, and so I was able to come through here then. I'd also met our managing editor Abigail at a Texas Press thing previously, and I knew that she was here, and I knew that she does really great work, and that was another unexpected tie-in. So
you kind of started answering my second question, so I'm going to ask it as you go on here. What were your first impressions driving into town? I know it sounds like you went to Clark's, which everybody does. I mean, what were you thinking?
Feels a lot like home. After living in the Houston area for about a decade, the climate is so much better here. I know people probably complain that it's too hot, but spend 10 years in Houston and you never stop mowing your yard, and you're sweating every day. It's a lot better up here, and growing up 3 hours from here, it reminds me of home, and the orange and black. And one of the second football team I ever covered was the Bearcats in a town called Mena, Arkansas, where Bill Clinton used to smuggle drugs. There's a Tom Cruise movie, I think it's called American something. Anyway, it's about that. I recommend
Where he's a pilot. I've
Yes.
seen it. It's
Yes,
a very good movie.
It's really great. That's Mena, Arkansas, where I
Tom Cruise, I don't want to offend the listeners, but he's actually a good actor in that movie.
one. Mhm.
Yes, in that one.
Yeah, I thought he was decent in Forrest Gump.
What?
Didn't you? Oh, you're talking about Tom Cruise, not Tom Hanks.
Yes, good Lord.
Sorry.
The record just scratched.
Maybe I just wanted Tom Hanks.
Listen when I ask questions, too. Pay attention
I'm
to my
so used
questions.
to you not talking.
Okay.
I thought maybe he did some sort of cameo there.
No, well,
Yeah, because some did. I was like, what?
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Back to it.
Yeah, no, good.
That just
Well,
interests me, like what your thoughts were and how you felt. Because the town either grabs people or it, I assume, drives some away that we never hear about and never come to work here.
I think also it's kind of unique in a way that, you know, this section of the world is growing explosively, and it's kind of maintained, you know, its intimateness, you know, that might not last forever, but as it stands now, it's, you know, it's kind of like a person without tattoos. It's unique not to have that growth here.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, I'm out of questions, especially now that I don't know what I'm talking about.
Mr. IMDb over here.
So,
Maybe time to get this guy some lunch.
No
You know,
kidding.
Getting lightheaded.
Do you have anything else that you would like to add, or
the problem
that
is
we
I'm only
missed?
halfway in on my first Dr. Pepper.
Because JT's actually the professional of the three of us.
Well,
Is there anything that we
I'm
missed,
not.
or you would like to add, or let people know, all four of them that are listening?
Right. Yeah, I'm grateful for you know, the opportunity here.
We appreciate you. We do, and I know that it's been a difficult time to come in. Not much going on, especially as a sports writer. This really sucks. But hope's on the way. And maybe June 8th we'll see you at the weight room. And
Absolutely.
we'll keep you posted as we keep everyone posted on what's going on. And we really look forward to it and look forward to the continued relationship between the Bearcats and the Post Signal. And so as far as I know, this is Coach Marsh and Chance Kirby, the Bearcat Insider, and JT Strasner of the Pilot Point Post Signal. We thank you for listening, and we'll catch up with you another time. Go Bearcats. Well, that really was a great interview, and it was great to hear from JT and all of the things he had to say. Chance, what do you think about all that?
I enjoyed the interview, and I enjoy JT, actually. I think it's going to be fun. I know it's all business for you on the sidelines, but I am going to enjoy hanging out with JT and having a back and forth about what's going on at the football games. And like I said, in the interview, I think the community is benefiting greatly from this hire that the Pilot Point Post Signal made, and small town guy getting to come back to his small town and do what he loves.
You know, and to that extent, I know that the Post Signal has gotten a ton of plugs from JT and us throughout the interview, but hats off to David Lewis for bringing in a talent like that to the paper to really help raise the profile, I guess you could say. I think that's going to be awesome for the paper, and hats off to David Lewis for the coup that got JT here and continuing to provide us with a quality product.
Yeah, and we only keep discussing it from the sports angle, but based on his past, which he discussed in the interview, sounds like he's just as solid in all the rest of it as well, which I know occasionally you'll mix in a City Hall article in the paper.
Sure.
After the sports page.
Yes, of course. But, you know, with that being said, and with you kind of exiting out the interview, man, the biggest thing we can do right now is say a big thank you to our sponsors. And so the Pilot Point Post Signal, Bearcat Nutrition Den, thank you to you guys for making this possible and helping us have a podcast and a YouTube video and everything that comes with it. And what's really exciting is we're going to add 3 new sponsors for the month of June to those 2 that are already doing it. And so Southern Junkies, Greg Pelzel's t-shirt company, to be named later after we talk to him, and then also Ashley Marsh Photography are going to sign on as sponsors for the podcast. And so we look forward to a kind of a relationship with those people. Obviously, I already have a relationship with Ashley Marsh Photography. I plan on keeping that relationship as long as she'll let me keep having that relationship with Ashley Marsh Photography. But big thank you to those guys and everything that they make possible for us. And so with that being said, thank you to our sponsors, thank you to the community, and thank you to our fans of Bearcat Insider. This is Coach Marsh with
Chance Kirby.
signing off. Go Bearcats.
Whoa, whoa.